There'll be an opportunity for a silent prayer. Please be seated. Honorable members, I would like to announce the appointment of Honorable K.V. Keketsi, owing to the resignation of Honorable Maine. Honorable Keketsi was sworn in yesterday, and I take this opportunity to welcome the Honorable member and wish her well as the member of the Council. Chief Whip, okay. Does any member wish to give notice of a motion? Honorable Worth.
Thank you, Chairperson. On behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby wish to give notice that at the next sitting of the Council, it notes that, firstly, the Auditor General's report released last week stated that 9 institutions, and I'm talking the Free State Province, all municipalities in the Free State, except for the municipal power distributor, Centlec, had disclaimers and adverse opinions issued against him for the past 3 years and have failed to improve, which is cause for serious concern. Secondly, the Auditor General remarked that these municipal entities failed to improve mainly due to lack of stability in leadership and administration, which hampered efforts to improve financial performance. Lastly, achieving clean audits at local government authorities and other state institutions can only be realized if adequate and competent personnel is put in place to perform what should be basic financial and management functions. I so move.
Honorable Clark.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. Chair, I rise on behalf of the Congress of the People that in the next council sitting of the House debates the Northwest local government shenanigans, especially in the Ditsobotla local municipality. Notes that the recent introduction of prepaid electricity in Lichtenburg town in Ditsobotla is unconstitutional. And further notes that the municipal manager was instructed to appoint Camivox Pty Ltd company that will provide prepaid electricity without following due processes. Calls on both the Northwest Premier and the Minister of Corporate Governance and Traditional Affairs to investigate the contract awarded to the Camivox Pty Ltd. This will lead to the shedding of jobs and the municipality will be unable to raise revenue. I so move, Chair.
Honorable Jacobs.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. On behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby move a notice of a motion that in the next sitting of the House, that the House will discuss the policy on RTP houses, which was created to help the poor. Many RTP houses are being sold, some without deed of sale, and evidence that suggests that the poor are being exploited, and many first-time government beneficiary homeowners are becoming back dwellers again. The situation further leads to increase in informal settlements and occupation of government land and public open spaces earmarked for other developments. Government must review this policy on RTP and protect the poor from illegal deals and losing their RTP houses. I so move. Thank you.
Does any member wish to move a motion without notice? Barota, is your hand up? I see. Honorable Gregana.
I hereby notice that, notes with the concern and shock that the DA-led City of Cape Town has decided to extend the city urban edge in order to make 300 hectares of valuable agricultural land in the horticultural area of Philippi available to developers for housing and commercial development, following approval by the DA-led Western Cape Provincial Government to rezone the land for urban development, and despite the outcry and objection of the public, as well as environmental experts, academics, and findings of the various studies, notes that the agricultural area of Philippi, which is commonly known as the breadbasket aquifer of Cape Town, produces approximately 100,000 tons of fresh produce per year that not only supplies supermarkets but also low-income and poor households on Cape Flats through informal traders. Further notes that the city defends its decision by basing it on misleading and unconvincing grounds and excuses such as city's housing crisis, and that the local farmers want to move out of farming, while these excuses are not supported by research findings, and while experts condemn the decision as it would raise the price vegetable for Cape Town and endanger the water sources in the area. Furthermore, a study by the city itself in 2010 has found that even at the current densities, there is enough land within the urban edge to accommodate growth, and calls on the Western Cape MEC for Local Government, Environmental Affairs and Development Planning to set the decision aside, and also calls on the Minister of Agriculture, Forest and Fisheries to intervene as a matter of urgency, if necessary, and appropriate the land to ensure that it be preserved for agricultural purposes. I so move, Chair.
Is there any objection to the motion? Yes. In light of the objection, the motion may not be proceeded with. Motion without notice will now become notice of a motion. Honorable van Lingen.
Honourable Chairperson, on behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby wish to move a motion without notice that the Council takes note of Kocha Municipality, who, according to the 2012 census figures, is a municipality in Katkadu district with the worst possible housing backlogs and in excess of 51% of households without proper sanitation. Reports reveal that there are approximately 3,292 bucket toilets in the Kocha local municipality alone, and a further 1,367 households without any toilets. The RDP housing backlog is an estimated 9,000 houses. The backlog in the municipal bulk services infrastructure must urgently be upgraded in capacity before any housing can be constructed. The backlog costs are approximately 480 million rand. The province granted 62 million to supplement the MIC funds of 27.9 million in May 2013, but it is not sufficient to improve the lives of the communities in Sea Vista, Pola Park, Shukushukuma, Stowolk, Ocean View, Luri, and many other towns in Kocha. We call on the Minister of Human Settlements and Water Affairs to please support Kocha Municipality financially to alleviate the distress through the various programs such as MIG, Regional Bulk Infrastructure Grant from Water Affairs, and then the Municipal Infrastructure Support Agency. I so move.
Is there any objection to the motion? In light of the objection, the motion may not be proceeded with. The motion without notice will now become a notice of the motion. Honorable Faku.
I hereby move without notice that the Council note and welcome the recent ruling of the Cape Town High Court to set aside the decision of the Western Cape MEC of Local Government, Environmental Affairs and Development Planning to approve the controversial development of the historic 18th century Lutheran Church site along the Bree Street in Cape Town to accommodate parking, shops and offices. Note that the site that is situated is a declared urban conservation area and that the MEC has approved the development despite numerous objections, and had the court not intervened, the controversial development would have impacted severely on the architectural, aesthetic and historical significance of the area, and calls on all relevant authorities, including municipal and provincial planning authorities, not to ignore the public and other views and objections in land use matters, and also not to allow subjective and or uninformed and or ulterior grounds or motives to take preference over the duty to preserve the historic and cultural heritage for future generations. I so move.
Is there any objection to the motion? Motion is agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Makata.
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson. On behalf of the ANC, I hereby move without notice that the Council notes with profound sadness the passing away of United Democratic Movement, that is UDM Deputy President and Member of Parliament, Honorable Dr. Marshall Kganyago, who passed away on Wednesday, 17 July 2013. Further notes that Honorable Kganyago dedicated his life to serving the people of South Africa in various leadership positions, including serving as a municipal councillor in Polokwane from 2000 until 2004, member of the provincial legislature in Limpopo in 2004, Deputy Minister of Public Works from 2004 to 2009, and served as a Member of Parliament from April 2004 until his death. Acknowledges that the death of Honorable Kganyago has robbed our people of committed servant who dedicated his life to be the champion of their plight, and takes this opportunity to extend its heartfelt condolences to his wife, children, friends, and colleagues in the United Democratic Movement. I so move.
Is there any objection to the motion? Motion is agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Muchodi.
Thanks, Honorable Deputy Chair. I hereby move without notice that the Council knows that a woman allegedly gave birth to her baby on the floor in the reception area at Guguletu Maternity and Obstetric Unit without the assistance of medical staff and in full view of other patients. Knows that after her arrival at the clinic in the early hours, she was unable to get assistance or attention from the nursing staff despite her shouting for help and despite her being unable to walk. Notes that a security guard eventually offered to look for her folder so that she could proceed to the maternity section while no assistance or a wheelchair to get to the maternity section was offered to her, and condemned this lack of service and unacceptable behavior of the medical staff and this clinic, and call on the Western Cape Department of Health to investigate this matter urgently and to take appropriate remedy and disciplinary steps. I so move, Honorable Deputy Chair.
Is there any objection to the motion? Motion is agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Lees.
Honourable Chairperson, I hereby move the following motion without notice. This House notes the findings of the Joint Committee on Ethics and Members' Interests Panel appointed to consider the allegations of serious misconduct against the Honourable Pule. Further notes that these findings include that Mr. Nkibisa benefited unduly from his close relationship with Honourable Pule, while she held high office as a member of the South African Cabinet. The House therefore condemns the action of Honourable Pule that led to the undue enrichment and of benefits accrued to Mr. Nkibisa, welcomes the imposition on the Honourable Pule of the maximum penalty allowed by the rules of Parliament, calls upon the SAPS and the NPA to ensure that all allegations of a criminal nature are fully investigated, and where crimes have been committed, that the relevant persons are prosecuted with the full force of the law. I so move.
Is there no objection to the motion? In light of the objection, the motion may not be proceeded with. Motion without notice will now become notice of a motion. Honorable Sibande.
Chairperson, I hereby move without notice that the Council notes and welcomes the announcement by Metro Rail in Cape Town to launch a further security unit shortly aimed at boosting security measures on trains and to watch over commuters. Following the recent findings by the Cape Town High Court that Metro Rail security system is inadequate and that the Metro Rail has made no attempts at all to employ more platform marshals to assist the train guards or to ensure that trains are not allowed to move without open door. To move with open doors. Notes that despite security measures implemented by Metro Rail's commuters often hamper their efforts by damaging trains, not paying for tickets, holding trains' doors open, and the like. However, notes that despite Metro Rail's announcement that it has doubled its security in Western Cape year on year since 2009, such security measures are not visible and or are far from adequate as overcrowded trains are moving with commuters hanging out the doors and standing between coaches, and calls on Metro Rail and all transport authorities to ensure that adequate security measures are developed and implemented as the matter of urgency, not only on all trains but also at all stations to ensure that it become enforced at all times. I so move.
Is there an objection to the motion? Motion is agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Mohoro. Veteran.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Chair. I hereby move without notice that the Council knows the convincing victory of the Springbok over the Argentinian Pumas in their start of the 2013 Four-Nation Rugby Championship at the packed F&B Stadium in Soweto last Saturday. Note that the Springbok ran in 9 tries against Argentina's only 1 try scored as a consolation in the last minute of the game, and that the 73-13 victory of the Springbok is a record-winning margin for any team in the competition, and takes this opportunity to congratulate the Springbok and its coach and management team on the performance and victory for doing South Africa proud during the occasion of the Nelson Mandela Sports Culture Day, and wishes them well on their return match against the Pumas in Mendoza in the Argentina on a Saturday, and on other matches to the following competition. I so move, Chair.
Order Bloom. Honorable Bloom. Is there any objection to the motion? No. Motion is agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Boroto.
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson. Deputy Chairperson, I hereby move without notice that the Council notes and welcome the conferring of the freedom of the city of Johannesburg on a veteran of the women's struggles in Bogodo and the ANC Women's League National Executive Committee member, Comrade Auntie Sophie William de Bruyn. And further notes that Comrade Sophie de Bruyn, together with the comrades like Lillian Ngoyi, Rahima Musa, Amina Kachalia, etc., helped to organize the more than 20,000 women of all races who participated in the historic march against the past laws in 1956. It is these women and their heroism that our country continues to commemorate annually on the 9th of August, and take this opportunity to express his profound appreciation to the leadership of the city of Johannesburg for conferring the freedom of the city to one of the fearless and champion of our people's struggles for liberation, who remains the symbol for the fight for the emancipation of women in our society. I so move.
Is there an objection to the motion? Motion is agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Temba.
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson. I hereby move without notice that the Council notes with shock and utter dismay that a 31-year-old woman and a mother of a 2-year-old son was brutally raped and left to die in the field on the N12 near Warrington in the Northern Cape. Notes that she was apparently dragged to the spot where she was raped and where her attacker left her to die in the cold, with temperatures plummeting to below freezing point at the time, reaffirms that South Africa can no longer accept the scourge of rape, murder and violence against women, and calls on all South Africans and the relevant authorities to join hands to fight and root out this barbaric scourge, and also takes this opportunity to call on the police and the prosecuting authority to leave no stone unturned to bring the perpetrators to book and to ensure that they meet with the full might of the law. I so move.
Is there an objection to the motion? Motion is agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Faber.
Honourable Deputy Chair, on behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby wish to move a motion without notice that Johan Cronje snatched a surprise bronze in the men's 1,500 final on Saturday, the nation's only medal, to close out the SAS team's worst performance at the biennial showpiece since they failed to win a medal at the 2007 event in Osaka. The countries South Africa is competing against have spent so long developing their intellectual capital that they've actually earned success. The nation's best chance for a medal in Moscow, Kasta Semenya, failed to qualify in the women's 800, while other hopefuls struggled in the events. Only 6 athletes were able to reach finals by making it through qualifying rounds. Of the 25 who competed, 11 were unable to progress beyond the first round of these events. The current state of athletics is not for a lack of people, knowledge, or talented athletes. We need to be able to link those things together. Athletics South Africa administration are partly to blame for this performance in Moscow. There has been numerous scandals at ASA, and it seems as if the national minister is turning a blind eye to it. Everyone who plays a role in South African athletics should be held responsible for sport failures, including administrators, coaches, and mainly government with weak leadership and no long strategic plan. I so move.
Is there any objection to the motion? Yes. In light of the objection, the motion may not be proceeded with. Motion without notice will now become notice of a motion. Honorable Chane.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. I hereby move without notice that the Council notes the 2-0 victory of Bafana Bafana over Burkina Faso during the international friendly that formed part of the inaugural Nelson Mandela Sport and Culture Day at the FNB Stadium in Soweto last Saturday. Knows that with this victory, Bafana Bafana bounced back after they have lost to Nigeria in Durban last week and needs to beat Botswana next week to have a chance to put themselves in the contention to make it through to the next round of qualifiers for the World Cup 2014. And takes this opportunity to congratulate Bafana Bafana and its coaching and management teams for doing South Africa great proud with their performance and their victory, and wishes them well on their coming qualifying fixture against Botswana in Durban and further qualifying matches to follow. I so moved.
Is there any objection to the motion? No. Motion is agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Keketsi.
Thank you, Madam Honorable Deputy Chairperson. The African National Congress wish to move without notice that the Council note with sadness the death of former Deputy Minister of Social Development, Dr. Jean Swanson Jacobs, who recently passed away after a short illness in Cape Town. Further note that Dr. Swanson Jacobs was a defender of human rights who served Parliament utmost commitment and humility as a member of numerous portfolio committees before her appointment as a Deputy Minister, including serving as a member of the portfolio committees on education, arts and culture, and quality of life and status of women, trade and industry, public enterprises, joint rules and language policy committee. Further note that Dr. Swanson Jacobs also served in numerous structures of the ANC and alliance partners, including serving as a member of United Women's Congress of Surrey Estate Branch, executive member of Belleville, African National Congress Branch, ANC Northern Sub-Region and ANC Western Cape Province. Dr. Swanson Jacobs also worked as a senior lecturer in social psychology at the University of Western Cape, where she's also served as a member of Transformation Forum before she became a member of Parliament in National Assembly in 1997, and takes this opportunity to convey its condolences to the family, friends, and comrades of Dr. Swanson Jacobs. I so move, Honorable.
Is there any objection to the motion? No. Motion is agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. And the last person is Honorable Mashele.
Thanks, Chairperson. I hereby move without notice that the Council notes with shock and utmost concern that 1,448 members of the South African Police Services have been convicted of multiple and serious offences, ranging from assault, theft, housebreaking, kidnapping, robbery, murder, attempted murder, rape, attempted rape, and other serious crimes while they remain in the employ of the police. Note that more than 200 of these convicted members are senior officers such as brigadiers, colonels, lieutenant colonels, and captains, while more than 300 members were convicted before appointment to the police, and more than 1,000 after they have joined the police service. Expresses concern that these members who are entrusted to prevent and combat crime and to protect our people and also to uphold law and order and discipline in the police are convicted criminals that apparently have no respect for the law, and take this opportunity to call on the Minister of Police and the Commissioner of Police to investigate this state of affairs as a matter of urgency and to make immediate steps to dismiss these members and to put appropriate measures in place to ensure that people with criminal records are not appointed in the police service. I so move.
Is there any objection to the motion? Motion is agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. I won't ask for more motions without notice because of the time factor. We now come to the motion on the order paper as printed in the name of the Chief Whip.
Thank you, Chairperson. I so move.
If there's no speakers list, I shall now put the question. Question is that the motion be agreed to as the decision is dealt with in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. I shall first ascertain whether all the delegate heads are present in the chamber to cast their province's votes. Are they? Yes. In accordance with Rule 71, I shall first allow provinces the opportunity to make their declaration of vote, if they so wish. We shall now proceed to the voting on the question. I shall do this in alphabetical order per province. Heads of delegation will vote by pressing in favor, against, or abstain buttons. Eastern Cape, Free State, Gauteng, KwaZulu-Natal, Limpopo, Mpumalanga, Northern Cape, Northwest, Western Cape, all 9 provinces have voted in favor. I therefore declare the motion agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Secretary will read the first order of the day.
Consideration of report of Select Committee on Appropriations, hearing on the third and fourth quarter expenditure report on the Community Library Services grant for provinces for the 2012-13 financial year.
I'll now call upon Honorable Faku.
Greetings to the Chairperson, the Honorable Minister, the Honorable MEC for Gauteng, Chief Whip, and all members. Greetings to you. The Select Committee on Appropriation invited the Eastern Cape, KwaZulu-Natal, Limpopo, and Northwest provinces to make submissions on their spending of the Community Library Services grant on the third and fourth quarters of the 2012-2013 financial year. However, KwaZulu-Natal province and Northwest province were unable to honor the invitation. The committee also extended invitations to the Department of Arts and Culture and National Treasury to make presentations. The purpose of the Community Library Services grant is to transform urban and rural community library infrastructure, facilities, and services, primarily targeting previously disadvantaged communities through a recapitalized program at provincial level in support of local government and national initiatives. The National Treasury reported that the Community Library Services grant was allocated a total of 615 million for the 2012-2013 financial year. By the end of the third quarter, the provinces have spent 370.1 million, or 60.2%, except for Limpopo province, 37.9%, Eastern Cape province, 42.2%, and Northwest province, 50.6%. At the end of the 2012-2013 financial year, grant expenditure amounted to 518.8 million, or 84%. The Limpopo, Eastern Cape, and Northwest provinces continued to spend poorly in the fourth quarter and spent less than 75% of their total allocations for the 2012-2013 financial year. On the other hand, Gauteng, KwaZulu-Natal, and Western Cape provinces spent their 2012-13 allocation in full by the end of the 2012-2013 financial year. With regard to the grant expenditure reported by Gauteng and the Western Cape provinces, the bulk of this expenditure is related to transfers to municipalities, and the actual expenditure figures still need to be verified by the municipalities. The municipalities' year-end expenditure results are only available 3 months after the provincial financial end, which raises concern regarding the credibility of provincial expenditure results. The Eastern Cape province reported that it received a total allocation of 87.7 million for the 2012-2013 financial year, of which 61.7 million, or 74.9%, was spent by financial year end. The underspending of the grant allocation was due to a number of challenges, including delays in awarding a modular libraries tender, delays in appointment of 48 librarians due to slow recruitment processes, non-registration of service providers on the provincial database resulted in the late issuing of orders to service providers, delays in construction of libraries due to issues of land allocation and municipal council resolutions, and challenges with KUHA as the implementing agent in respect of infrastructure projects. Challenges include capacity constraints within KUHA and challenges with contractors due to non-performance. Limpopo province reported that of the total allocation of 82.7 million, it only spent 49.7 million, or 60% at the end of the 2012-2013 financial year. The province indicated that of the total unspent allocation of 33 million, it requested 10.9 million in rollovers for outstanding capital works and 4.6 million in respect of committed goods and services expenditure. The underspending of the 2012-2013 grant allocation was attributed to capacity constraints within the department, which included the senior manager for library services, the provincial librarian, and the infrastructure manager did not possess the requisite skills and competencies to manage the grant, libraries, and the construction of library projects. The department experienced some challenges with the Provincial Department of Public Works as the implementing agent for infrastructure projects, and the department had been unable to mediate land disputes between municipalities and traditional leadership authorities, which further delayed the construction of certain libraries. Key findings by the committee: there is a need to detail a report on the spending patterns and service delivery performance of this grant since its inception in order to gauge whether the grant funding is serving its purpose. The spending reflected by Gauteng province and the Western Cape province is only an indication of transfer made to municipality, not necessarily actual spending. There are a number of weaknesses in the supply chain management units within the majority of provinces, leading to poor adjudication processes, particularly in the Eastern Cape province, as the provincial department does not have a technical expert representative on the bid adjudication committee. The Eastern Cape province is struggling to terminate contracts with poor performing service providers, especially KUHA. The Eastern Cape province relies on one official to monitor library projects in the whole province. There are huge cost variations in the libraries built in Limpopo province, ranging from 360,000 to 5 million, which could imply that such structures are varying standards. The National Treasury indicated that some of the provincial plans for the 2013-2014 financial year lack credibility, especially those of Limpopo province. Recommendations of the Select Committee on Appropriations: the National Departments of Arts and Culture should provide the committee within a month of the adoption of this report by the NCOP with a detailed report on the performance of the Community Library Services grant since its inception, particularly the following: the purchase of library materials, provision of library services for the visually impaired, construction of new libraries, upgrading and maintenance of existing libraries, and the appointment of new librarians. The National Treasury and National Departments of Arts and Culture should ensure that expenditure reports in Gauteng and the Western Cape are a true reflection of their actual expenditure, and not only of funds transferred to municipalities. The provincial departments for arts and culture in Gauteng and Western Cape should develop monitoring mechanism for the funds transferred to municipalities. The National Departments of Arts and Culture and the National Treasury should support provincial departments of arts and culture in developing capacity within their SCM units, and specifically provides assistance with BIDS education processes of Limpopo province and the Eastern Cape province. The National Departments of Arts and Culture, together with National Treasury, should support the Eastern Cape province to ensure that the province is able to terminate its contracts within service providers who fail to deliver. The Eastern Cape province should ensure that it has sufficient personnel for monitoring and evaluating projects funded by the grant. The National Departments of Arts and Culture should support Limpopo province in developing standardized structures for libraries to avoid huge variations in the construction cost of libraries. The National Departments of Arts and Culture should support provincial departments in developing credible plans and further ensure that all the plans it approves for provinces are credible. Thank you so much, Deputy Chair.
I shall now put the question that the report be agreed to. In accordance with Rule 71, I shall first allow provinces the opportunity to make their declaration of vote. Shall now proceed to the voting on the question. I'll do this in alphabetical order per province. Heads of delegation will vote by pressing in favor, against, or abstain. Eastern Cape, Free State, Gauteng, KwaZulu-Natal, Limpopo, Mpumalanga, Northern Cape, Northwest, Northwest, Western Cape, all 9 provinces have voted in favor. The Secretary will read the second order of the day.
Consideration of report of Select Committee on Appropriations, hearing on the third and fourth quarter expenditure report on the Limali Tsema project grant in the 2012-2013 financial year.
I'll now call upon Honorable De Beer.
Honorable Chairperson and honorable members, the strategic goal of the grant is to reduce poverty through increased food production initiatives. The purpose of the grant is to assist vulnerable South African farming communities to achieve an increase in agricultural production and investment in infrastructure that unlocks agricultural production. The following are the outcomes of the grant: increased production efficiency, increased agricultural production at both households and national level, improved farming income, maximize job opportunities and reduced poverty, increased number of households assisted to cope with the escalation food prices. Observations and findings of the committee are as follows. A number of provinces had huge expenditure spikes during the last quarter of the financial year. Such expenditure spikes are indications of poor planning. The committee noted with concern that these spending spikes have the potential for fiscal dumping and irregular expenditures. Apart from spending spikes, one province, and that's Gauteng, underspent by close to 40%, and the committee noted with concern that the underspending compromised service delivery. Some of the underspendings are due to delays within supply chain processes, capacity constraints, and service providers who failed to deliver. These are indications of serious weaknesses in supply chain processes in most provinces. Some of the provincial departments submit unsound plans and lack risk management, show unrealistic targets, or does not show long-term plans to ensure recipients become self-sustaining. This situation casts doubt on whether the National Transferring Officer provided provinces with a set of norms and standards for the administration of the grant. Distribution of tractors was not based on the plans from provinces, especially in the Free State, where the tractors could not be utilized due to delays in registration and lack of budgeted funds for operational costs. This is also an indication that there is no coordinated planning between the National Department and the provinces. The committee raised concerns with the viability and sustainability of the One Family, One Garden campaign in view of the general inadequate supply of water to households in some communities. The Eastern Cape Department of Rural Development and Agrarian Reform is struggling to recover tractors that were given to cooperatives. The recommendations by the committee is as follows: that the Department of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries should ensure that approved provincial plans spread expenditure over the year, that's the financial year, to avoid March spending spikes that might lead to fiscal dumping. That the Department of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries with the National Treasury should closely monitor the provinces that underspend to avoid any further compromise to service delivery in those provinces. That the Department of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries and the National Treasury should prioritize supply chain management and monitoring and evaluation when providing capacity building support to provinces. That the Department of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries should ensure that it approves credible plans that also include contingency plans for unforeseen circumstances, and should also ensure that any material support, like the supply of tractors to provinces, is informed by provincial needs and plans to avoid delays in their utilization. Also, it should provide support to the Eastern Cape Department of Rural Development and Agrarian Reform to recover the tractors that have been allocated to the cooperatives. And that the Department of Agriculture should support provincial departments to ensure that their own family, one garden campaigns are sustainable. Chairperson, I move that the House adopts the report. Thank you.
That concludes the debate. I shall now put the question that the report be agreed to. In accordance with Rule 71, I shall first allow provinces the opportunity to make that declaration, if they so wish. We shall now proceed to the voting on the question. I shall do this in alphabetical order per province. Heads of delegation will vote in favor, against, or abstain. I now call upon Eastern Cape, Free State, Gauteng, KZN,
Siyayisekela.
Limpopo, Mpumalanga, Northern Cape, Northwest, Western Cape,
Voted.
all 9 provinces have voted in favor. The Secretary will read the third order of the day.
Consideration of report of Select Committee on Appropriations, hearing on the third and fourth quarter expenditure on the National Health Insurance Grant in the 2012-2013 financial year.
I'll now call upon Honorable Mashile.
Thanks, Chairperson. The strategic goal of the National Health Insurance Grant is to improve the service delivery platform, strengthen the performance of the health system in readiness for the full rollout of the NHI through selected pilot sites, and to have a more viable NHI design based on experience at these pilot sites. The grant is used to accelerate health sector improvement by strengthening the role of the National Department of Health in accelerating delivery of infrastructure in order to assist provinces with weaker capacity in the preparation phase of the NHI rollout. This grant has 2 components: the National Health Insurance Fund and Health Facility Revitalization. During the hearings, the committee has made a number of observations, among which are the following: the March expenditure spikes, the policy issues, and administrative challenges in a number of institutions. The March expenditure spikes are indications of poor planning and have potential to lead to fiscal dumping, unnecessary rollovers, and delayed desired outcomes. This kind of spending is also an indication that monitoring and support by the relevant national department is not as expected. The policy issues that are faced by some institutions include the following: the need for devolution of powers to the districts, a lack of clarity on the roles of some statutory bodies such as the district councils, health authorities, health committees, and the hospital boards. The delay in finalization of key policy documents, delay staffing, as well as supply chain management processes. The administrative challenges observed include poor revenue collections, poor planning, capacity constraints, staff apathy towards NHI, and prolonged staffing processes. In view of the above-mentioned observations, the committee has made the following recommendations. The National Department of Health should continue to provide support to hospitals to ensure that they are able to collect revenue due to them. The department should develop policy, norms, and standards that will shape devolution of powers to districts for effective service delivery. The department and the National Treasury should conduct regular monitoring of spending to avoid March spending spikes that might lead to fiscal dumping. The department should develop policy that will provide clarity on the roles of district councils and health authorities, health committees, and the hospital boards. The department should avoid ad hoc amendments of business plans, since funds are released on such approved plans. The department should ensure speedy finalization of key policy documents, such as the delegations, in order to unblock delays in appointing staff and slow supply chain management processes. The department should ensure the speedy finalization of contracts for the general practitioners. The department should ensure that there is staff to deal with the national health insurance deliverables at district and institutional level. The department should speedily take the lead in change management to avoid any further apathy towards the NHI piloting among district officials. The department should in future reconcile its figures before submission to the committee to avoid inconsistency in reporting. The committee wants to emphasize the need of coordination and expedition on all matters required to ensure that the national health insurance is rolled out. The Department of Health should provide the necessary leadership for successful preparation in the respective pilot sites. The Select Committee on Appropriations presents this report for consideration by the House. I thank you, Chair.
That concludes the debate. I shall now put the question that the report be agreed to. In accordance with Rule 71, I shall first allow provinces the opportunity to make that declaration if they so wish. Shall now proceed to the voting on the question. I'll do this in alphabetical order per province. Heads of delegation will vote by pressing in favor, against, or abstain. Eastern Cape, Free State, Gauteng, Gauteng,
Second.
KwaZulu-Natal,
I'll say Xhosa with a big smile.
Limpopo, Mpumalanga, Northern Cape, Northwest, Western Cape,
Voted.
have voted in favor and one has abstained. I therefore declare the report agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Secretary will read the fourth order of the day.
Consideration of report of Select Committee on Appropriations, hearing on the Dinaledi Schools grant in the 2012-2013 financial year.
Honorable Mosese.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Chairperson. Honorable Minister September, congratulations on your appointment. Chairperson, here we're dealing with the report which speaks on the Dinaledi grants for the year 2012-2013. Now, what the Appropriation Committee had done was to invite 3 provinces. These were Limpopo, Northwest, and the Western Cape. And the objective was to ensure that they make submissions on how the Naledi grant funding, the Naledi school grant funding was utilized by these provinces. Now, unfortunately, we had a situation in which the 2 provinces actually underspent on the presentations that they made. Now, the province of Limpopo, for instance, was allocated 14.4 million, and they underspent by 8.7 million. And the province of the Western Cape was also given their own allocation, and they underspent by 4.6 million. The other province that we invited, the Northwest Province, did not honor the committee's invitation. Comments made by the National Department of Education. The Department of Basic Education raised their concern with respect to the fact that the Dinaledi schools were not producing to the optimum. They indicated that they only scored 10% higher than the normal schools in maths and science. We will remember that the purpose of the Dinaledi grant is to promote mathematics and physical science, teaching and learning, and also to increase and encourage the number of learners taking on the two subjects. Now, the main focus was to ensure that the girl students are able to participate and excel. Now, with respect to the comments made by the National Department of Basic Education, they indicated that the amount that they spend to fund this particular program is not consummary with the amount that they spend. And the department indicated that they have got a strategy to ensure that they are able to intervene effectively. Now, the four-pronged intervention strategy that they outlaid to the committee was that firstly, they are going to deal with matters of curriculum, matters of annual national assessment, workbooks, and infrastructure in order to improve the effectiveness of the grant. Now, the National Treasury report on the fourth quarter grant was also made by National Treasury. They reported that the 2012-2013 financial year, the amount that they spent in total was 105 million that was allocated to the Naledi school. And the only outcome of expenditure was 82.3 million, which is 81% of the total amount that was given. Now, the Limpopo province, the Western Cape, and the Northwest, and the Free State provinces, these were the biggest contributors to underspending. Now, they underspent by a total of 19.2 million at the end of the financial year 2012-2013. Now, the Naledi schools, mostly in the Western Cape, they are based in the townships of Kukuletu, Nyanga, and so on and so on. Now, the only problem is the casual manner with which the government of the Western Cape, most in particular the Education Department, approaches service delivery. So the failure of provincial departments of education to procure service providers, particularly in the Western Cape, and also the poor supply chain management skills, which results in cancellations in the provinces of Limpopo, Mpumalanga, and the Free State, are also a source of concern. Also, with respect to the payment transfers which are supposed to have been made, particularly by Gauteng and Mpumalanga. Now, the findings which have been made by the committee with respect to this presentation is that it is unclear whether the Dinaledi School grant funds spent on teacher training is achieving the desired results, as no effective pre- and post-assessment of teachers takes place. And then two of the findings is that the Dinaledi schools also score only 10% higher than the schools in maths and science than the normal school program. And then the Limpopo province indicated that it requested a rollover of 8.5 million in respect of the 8.7 million it underspent at the end of that financial year. And then four, the underspending of 4.9 million or 51% by the Western Cape province was due to the non-compliance with the national centralized procurement process and the poor management of its own internal supply chain management processes. And then five, that the underspending of 2.5 million or 22.2% by the Northwest province was due to a range of problems within the provincial treasury and the provincial education department. It seems like the two departments don't talk to each other. And then the last point on comments, on findings of the committee is that the 99.8% and the 100% spending reported by Mpumalanga and Gauteng provinces respectively is only an indication of the funds transferred and not the actual spending by implementing agencies in those provinces. Now, the committee went on to make recommendations as follows. 1, the Department of Basic Education should provide the committee with its evaluation report after its release on the 15th May this year. The Department of Basic Education, again, should monitor capacity building of teachers for maths and science to ensure that the grant achieves its desired outcome. And that 3, the National Treasury, the provincial treasuries, and the Department of Basic Education should work jointly to build capacity for delivery within the provinces. That 4, the National Treasury and the Department of Basic Education should jointly monitor the situation in Limpopo province to ensure that the province is able to spend rolled funds as well as new allocations. And that 6, the National Treasury and the Department of Basic Education should provide support to the Western Cape province to ensure that its procurement processes do not unnecessarily delay spending and service delivery. And that 7, the National Treasury and the Department of Basic Education should monitor the situation in the Northwest province to ensure that there is effective and efficient spending. And lastly, Chairperson, that the National Treasury and the Department of Basic Education should ensure that where funds are transferred, the expenditure reports include or should include the actual expenditure for the services rendered. Move for adoption, Deputy Chair. Thank you.
That concludes the debate. I shall now put the question that the report be agreed to. In accordance with Rule 71, I shall first allow provinces the opportunity to make their declaration, if they so wish. We shall now proceed to the voting on the question. I'll do this in alphabetical order per province. Heads of delegation will vote by pressing in favor, against, or abstain. Eastern Cape?
Vote in favor, Chair.
Free State?
Voted.
Gauteng?
Voted.
KZN?
Voted in favor.
Limpopo? Mpumalanga?
Positively.
Northern Cape? Northwest? Western Cape? Provinces have voted in favor. I therefore declare the report agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Secretary will read the 5th order of the day.
Consideration of report of Select Committee on Appropriations, Financial and Fiscal Commission's report entitled Sustaining Local Government Finances, final report on the Financial and Fiscal Commission's public hearings on the review of the local government fiscal framework.
I now call upon Honorable Chane.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. Chair, on the 22nd of May this year, the committee met with the Fiscal Financial Commission to receive a report regarding local government fiscal framework. The local government fiscal framework is viewed as funding arrangement or framework required to ensure that local government and individual municipalities are sufficiently financially resourced to fulfill their constitutional mandate to render services to communities. The FFC undertook the study with a view to respond to the following critical question. How can the current local government fiscal framework be configured to appropriately fund the various needs of different types of municipalities in the country to ensure they are financially and fiscally well capacitated to fulfill their constitutional mandate? In responding to this question, the Commission identified the following as some of the guiding principles. 1, a A better understanding of the dynamic between fiscal capacity and fiscal effort needs to be informed in any revision of the fiscal framework. 2, in balancing expenditure needs with the revenue resources, a distinction needs to be made between a lack of fiscal effort and lack of fiscal capacity, and the policy response needs to be appropriate to the underlying causes. In simple terms, Honorable Chair, the fiscal capacity refers to the potential and ability to raise revenue. Within the context of local government fiscal framework, the fiscal capacity would refer to the ability of municipalities to raise own revenue depending the ability of residents within those municipalities to pay for the rates, taxes and services. There are, however, certain socio-economic realities that create some disparities in various municipalities that have potential to negatively impact on the fiscal capacity of certain municipalities. Such realities include the cost of providing public goods and services, underdevelopment, differences in geographic topographies, population sizes and movements, income levels, unemployment, economic shocks, etc., etc. On the other hand, fiscal efforts refer to municipalities' capacity to collect fees. In this case, there are also some unpleasant realities such as challenges of appropriate billing and debt collection in most municipalities. While the committee welcomes the study undertaken by the FFC, the committee is, however, of the view that certain issues raised by the Commission needs further research and further engagement with the relevant stakeholders, e.g. traditional leaders, SALGA, and relevant government departments and entities. And the committee recommend as follows. 1, that the Commission should engage other stakeholders on further research regarding tourism levy as a source of revenue for rural municipalities. 2, that the Commission should engage other stakeholders on how rural municipalities can be made viable. 3, that the Commission should engage National Treasury regarding further research to assess the extent to which smaller municipalities can benefit from the fuel levy. 4, that the Commission should engage the traditional leaders as stakeholders on the findings of this study. 5, that the Commission should engage SALGA and ESCOM with regard to the surcharges on electricity as a source of revenue for municipalities. 6, that the National Treasury and the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs should look into capacity constraints of departments that are supposed to provide support to municipalities. 7, that the proposed municipal incentives should be well designed to avoid unintended consequences. And 8, that the Commission should conduct a further research on economic linkages between urban and rural areas to ascertain to what extent they are exploitative or mutually beneficial. We therefore recommend for the approval of the report, Chair. Thank you.
That concludes the debate. I shall now put the question that the report be agreed to. In accordance with Rule 71, I shall first allow provinces the opportunity to make their declaration of vote, if they so wish. We shall now proceed to the voting on the question. I shall do this in alphabetical order per province. Heads of delegation will vote by pressing in favor, against, or abstain. Eastern Cape?
In favor, Chair.
Free State? Gauteng? KZN?
Understand.
Limpopo?
In favor.
Mpumalanga?
Mpumalanga understand.
North Cape? Northwest?
In favor.
Western Cape?
Voted.
Nine provinces have voted in favor. I therefore declare the report agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable members, we now come to the subject for discussion as printed on the order paper. I'll now call upon Honorable September.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chairperson, Honorable members, and the members of the Department of Human Settlements. Good afternoon. Deputy Chair, allow me firstly to acknowledge and express indeed my appreciation for our common focal point that you have asked us to debate here today. Today, we will restate our commitment indeed to meeting the basic needs of the South African people. In order to contextualize this framework, we have identified housing, of course, as we have said in the Reconstruction Development Program, as part of our basic needs. And whilst we have formally developed a progressive approach from housing to shelter to human settlements, even in the adoptions of the Reconstruction Development Program, we indeed recognize the interconnectivity of our challenges and the need, in this instance, to promote integration. Deputy Chair, we also recognize then that we require indeed a holistic approach to effectively address the effects of apartheid, which inherently requires a long-term approach, and we acknowledge that we are also faced now, too, with globalization, of course, population growth, urbanization, the rising unemployment, and many, many other factors. But let us not lose sight of the fact that then, before 1994, we did not have reliable or collated statistical data in this instance. But that said, Deputy Chair, the tone I wish to set for today's debate is a solution-orientated one, not one where I think it will be very helpful to point fingers, to try and make excuses, and indeed this is not a matter for any political point scoring. I also wish to stimulate the dialogues necessary for us to understand our situation and to collaboratively craft a meaningful response. With regards to our response to the backlogs, having given you a broad contextual framework, let me brief you on our activities as the Department of Human Settlements, some of our achievements, some of our programs. I will take you through our grants that we have and touch on the challenges that indeed still remain. We, of course, work together with municipalities, with the provinces, and our mandate is to create sustainable human settlements and improve the quality of life of our people. We have done so and have started in areas such as Canubia, where we have demonstrably shifted gear from the mere provision of a top structure to creating sustainable and dignified communities. We continue in our National Upgrading Support Program, and here we rolled out to address the upgrading of informal settlements in areas in Mpumalanga, in the Northern Cape, and indeed in the Northwest. Together with this upgrading resource kit that we have, an active support program has been developed to include the technical support that we continue to give to our municipalities to produce municipal upgrading strategies and settlement levels, as with the upgrading that we have in some Mangweni. With regards to our funding and our grant funding that we have, some of these grant funding options available and that we allocate to the provinces and municipalities, they are the following. Of course, the MIG grant, as everyone calls it, the Municipal Infrastructure Grant, especially as related to the infrastructure development we give to them. With regards to the estimated sites to benefit across provinces, are more than 8,000 and more than 36,000 units we've given in what we call the RIG Fund. This is the Rural Household Infrastructure Grant. We do so too in the Urban Settlements Development Grant, where more than 7 billion has been given to allocated to identified municipalities. This includes the provision of well-located rental accommodation of more than 37,000 units across the country. The Human Settlements Development Grant, more than 16 billion rands, has been allocated to provinces in 2013. Our priority areas in our project are identified in the following. We do so in Duncan Village in the Eastern Cape. We do so in Diepsloot, Sweetwaters, Kusong, Luthering in Gauteng. I have said in KZN already, in Lephalale, in Limpopo, Dromedaris in the Western Cape, and many more. We have also made budgetary allocations to the provinces because many times they too require emergency funding, and here we've given them 300 million. We accept that our challenges remain within the aspect of land, but here we have identified and have assessed for suitable land for more than 7,000 hectares of state land that has been released for the gap housing, and another 40,000 hectares deemed suitable for release. We have also acquired more than 10,000 hectares of private land for human settlements. We've gone into many other programs also because we have to deal with the property markets also. And there we have been focusing on the property market in order for us to get the following milestones. We are progressing with the concept of the mortgage default insurance scheme. We do so in the Financial Link Individual Subsidy Program, everyone calls it FLISP, and it's available to households that, of course, fall within what is called the gap market in the income bracket of 3,501 rand, and those that are 7,000 rand. Who do not qualify for, those people obviously do not qualify for subsidized houses, and who cannot, of course, obtain a mortgage finance with agreements from the financial institutions, and of course the allocations that are received in the provinces. Our development financial institutions have together granted more than 200,000 loans to very many people in this country. But in order to make sure that many of these things happen, we've made sure that we do so within the establishment of a project management unit, and recognize that some of our previous challenges, we established this unit that can be staffed, that can take care of the funding, and so that we can execute our programs, so that we can give effective implementation. We recognize that in the past we've had very many different problems with the type of houses that have been built, and here we have continued to make sure that we roll out our rectification program, and the budget that has gone to that is about 600 million rand to rectify some of the houses where there has been defects in many of the housing stock that we've had in this country, because we've agreed as a country that our constitution says that our people have to live in dignity. We are actually aware of the need to collate, maintain, and interpret and make sure that we have reliable data in this area. Our challenges, Deputy Chair, with regards to relevant provinces, we need to continue, and I want to stress, because especially in the NCOP you will identify with us, we need to continue collaborative provincial and local government support, active participation and feedback to make inroads into the housing backlog. Some of the relevant challenges that we have identified and wish to highlight are with regards to the National Upgrading Support Program. There is a need to formalize provincial commitment and ensure that the provincial and local government is equipped and able to respond as an appropriate and fast enough space. Within the Human Settlements Development Grant, large amounts have been transferred to the provinces, and we request that the provinces be best placed in a position to spend their allocations appropriately. Many times you probably have seen this in the NCOP. We are aware that some provinces are listing delays in their procurement processes, but we encourage dialogue with the relevant treasuries to design processes that enable service delivery within a compliance environment. I have said that indeed our challenge remained within the availability of land. The dissemination of information and regular consultative opportunities and the encouragement we would want to go into is that of a consumer education program. Chairperson, whilst we talk about the housing and housing backlogs, indeed the aspect of sanitation is extremely important within this debate. You cannot separate sanitation from housing. And here, of course, we have extreme and very many challenges in this area that we require a collective effort to make sure that we live up to providing dignity to our people as we have promised by rolling out sanitation. And we have, up to now, in my little month that I've been there, we've been able to put together a program with the Department of Water Affairs, the Department of Cooperative Governance, and we have put together a program that will take us for the next few months to address from the Western Cape right to all the other provinces that seems to be having lots of difficulties in this area. With regards to how we would want to focus into the future and beyond 2013 and 2014, having given you this broad overview, Chairperson, we must bear in mind that it is imperative that our starting point to address the backlogs is a genuine partnership of the people, a partnership between the National Assembly, a partnership between the NCOP, and of course the local government. We need to accept responsibility for achieving our common goals, for the legacy we have inherited, and for redressing our past imbalances. As we move forward, we want to make sure that we address the question of spatial planning and better target resource allocation, that we ensure that poor households have adequate housing in better living environments, and that we continue to support the development of a functional and equitable residential property market and improve the institutional capacity and coordination. We will do so in the following focal points: that the provision of adequate houses and improve quality of living environments. We intend to increase the type of tenure being used to promote diversification, to cater for various socio-economic and cultural needs, because we have to transform and diversify the face of apartheid. We shall also continue to fast-track the release of land suitable for the establishment and growth of human settlements in a dignified and an extreme developmental manner. We too will, in relation to infrastructure, aim to ensure that the access to basic infrastructure and services is included in new developments together with some of our other departments, and also make sure that we develop a strategy to ensure, Deputy Chair, that integrated developments that support and economic hubs happen there within historically black townships, and that household and livelihoods and appropriate densification can occur. We will also ensure that we continue with the development of standards such as with the National Home Builders Registration Council, so that we make sure that we produce quality houses to our people. With regards to a single and functional residential property market, we would want to devise strategies to increase the supply of housing stock, continue to develop a diversified range of financing projects, which remains our challenge. We also would want to intensify consumer education and develop appropriate curricula at the school level also for this purpose. We would want to address one of the matters that I think really requires a big attention, and that is the issue of title deeds to our people. That we look at issuing title deeds upon occupation, as well as addressing the backlog in townships on registration. Many of our people we've been able to give houses to, but many of our people can't claim to say that indeed it belongs to me through the aspect of title deeds. We will continue to support and transfer houses to those who have We would want this matter also to be addressed in those provinces that hasn't done so. This is an agreement that we have put together in 1994 between Presidents Mandela and de Klerk, where we have agreed that we should support and continue to transfer houses to those who have historically been denied the right and opportunity to do so, especially females and those that were long-term residents, people that have been staying in these houses for many years. We would want this to happen. Some of the provinces has not adhered to this. We also would want stakeholder participation, including community-based organizations and civil society and NGOs, as well as intergovernmental consultative mechanism. We would want to give some more attention to this. We have responded to the 2011 census to speak to the reduction of households living in inadequate housing, and some of these plans are devised around what we have seen in the 2011 census. Chairperson, Deputy Chair, in conclusion, from a funding perspective, our departmental budget, as well as the budgets of entities falling under the department, reflects the prioritization of human settlement matters. I reiterate that addressing the housing backlogs required a consolidated effort from all tiers of government. I thank you, Chair.
Honorable Groenewald.
Don't worry, I will talk very nice today. Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. Honourable Minister, honourable members of the NCOP, the DA want to congratulate you in your new position, and we really hope that into the future something will happen in human settlement. South Africa cannot afford that millions of people still stay in shacks without no infrastructure such as water, sanitation, electricity, and roads. 20 years after the event of South Africa's democracy and the publishing of its housing white paper in 1994, dramatic changes occurred in the housing landscape. With a focus on delivering of subsidized housing to qualifying beneficiaries, the state has added upward of a 2 million housing unit to the formal housing in the country. For a range of reasons, delivering has now stalled. Access to housing in the interplay between demand and supply has been given significant attention by policy makers. And if we are looking into the demands, has a long housing waiting list, informal settlements, overcrowded inner city flats. And to the supply section, RDP houses delivered, social housing, rental and bonded housing. The department must promote and achieve a non-racial integrated society, reconciliation and delivering through the development of sustainable housing and human settlement and qualified housing. With the vision, the department is committed to meet the following specific objects: accelerating the delivering of housing to poverty alleviation, utilizing poverty of housing as a major job creation strategy, ensuring property cannot be accessed by all as an asset of wealth creation and empowerment, combating crime, promoting social cohesion, and promoting quality of life for the poor. In 1994, the challenges faced by the department were many, with an estimate 86% of households earning less than 3,500 rand per month. Housing affordability was seriously contained and in obvious need of subsidy support. The National Housing Corporation, NHFC, was established with government funding to support. The Ruling Housing Loan Fund, RHLF, was established with a donation from the German Development Bank. Factors that undermined the supply of housing and increased the backlog: property price appreciation, building material price escalation, limited construction capacity, lack of skills, insufficient capacity at municipal level. The greatest backlog experienced in Gauteng and in the Western Cape. Clearly, the demand for housing is expressed both in the subsidized and the starter or the affordable housing market. 50% of South Africa's households own their own dwellings, and 35% of South African households rent houses or housing. 12% to 15% of South African households squat in informal housing conditions. It is unacceptable that the department is unable to effectively monitor and evaluate the spending patterns by provinces and accredited municipalities. This led to billions of rand underspent on grants such as 4 billion on the Urban Settlement Development Grant, 886 million of Human Settlement Grant, which has been returned to National Treasury, the Rural Housing Infrastructure Grant. The department must be serious to deliver houses to the poor in South Africa. The time has come to look into alternative housing delivering, such as private sector participation, public sector delivering on proclamation of informal settlements with bulk services connections. And then the minister also mentioned it, ownership regard to title deeds. Alternative housing options such as shipping containers, concrete homes, development and ownership culture project to maintain the property with pride in programs such as EPW street paving projects, home maintenance programs, domestic food security programs, and environmental recycle programs to keep the community clean, green, and healthy. Government must accept responsibility for the performance and the delivery of the entire household backlog, together with the bulk services previously expediting and streamlining housing development functions, also in the higher income developments. I thank you.
Honorable Temba.
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson, Honorable Minister, Honorable Members, Special Delegates, Honorable Members. Let me also congratulate the Minister on her new deployment. And we say, as the Select Committee on Public Service, we welcome you and we will work with you. Let me also congratulate Honorable De Villiers. I want to welcome him to the ANC. You can see he's wearing the ANC scarf. Chairperson, the housing problems created by apartheid spatial planning were many and varied. They included and still include the racial fragmentation of our cities and the high correlation between housing, poverty, and race. Much of the housing available to the poor is located in townships and informal settlement far from places of work and poorly provided with community facilities, that is shops and recreational facilities. As the ANC, we believe that all citizens of South Africa have a right to essential services and to decent housing, appropriate to family and individual needs. The ANC's housing policy is therefore more than just the delivery of a product. It is a process which contributes to the cultural, economic, and social development of the entire society and is therefore about improving people's total living conditions. Given the pervasive poverty and the unequal distribution of wealth and land, the ANC's housing policy is designed to promote non-racialism, non-sexism, and cater for disadvantaged groups such as the very poor, old, and disabled. The democratic state has undertaken and will undertake, as and when it is required, appropriate legislative and executive action to ensure that these basic needs are met in a progressive manner. As scripture chair befitting this action would be 2 Kings chapter 8, verse 6. and I quote, "So the king appointed an official for her, saying, 'Restore all that was hers, together with all the produce of the fields from the day that she left the land until now.'" Chairperson, as part of its founding provisions, the Constitution of South Africa draws attention to the value of human dignity, the achievement of equality, and the advancement of human rights and freedoms. The mainstay of the ANC's policy is to address these values through its legislation, policies, and programs. The provision of decent housing for all South Africans is therefore recognized as one of the most ambitious of projects in the transformational agenda of the ANC. The human settlement development philosophy was first adopted in 1976 at the United Nations Global Habitat Summit in Canada. In 2002, the World Summit on Sustainable Development was held in Johannesburg. The Johannesburg Plan of Implementation responded with targets and timeframes that the ANC spoke to through its 52nd conference in Polokwane in 2007. The Polokwane resolutions committed the ANC's government to promoting human settlement that would build cohesive, sustainable, and caring communities. Chairperson, a comprehensive plan for sustainable human settlement was approved in 2005, and a revised housing code was published in 2009 to mark the shift from shelter to human settlement. This transition, Chair, to a human settlement framework has formed a major step in responding to the growing needs to reprioritize the national budget towards greater investment in social infrastructure. The policy shift by the ANC to sustainable human settlement indicates a move towards an understanding that integrated services will address basic needs more holistically than the provision of individual housing. The human settlement approach is also in line with the ANC plan to create an integrated and socially cohesive nation and to transform the apartheid spatial framework of cities and towns. The adoption of the comprehensive plan for the development of sustainable human settlement in 2005 marked a conceptual shift away from the mandate of providing a house on poorly located land far from economic activity and social services to the provision of amenities to support the creation of functional communities through access to transport, social services, and employment opportunity. The housing to human settlement principles of development are outlined by a policy that is responsive to housing demands and the needs of poor households, and that provides tenure options in an affordable and fiscally sustainable manner. Through integrated planning and good governance, the human settlement approach advocates optimal land utilization and stimulates private investment in housing and community development. In practice, integrated means the development of communities with access to transport, economic opportunities, and social amenities. Such thinking is also in line with the recognition that poverty, inequality, and unemployment are deeply intertwined with infrastructure. Furthermore, the paradigm shift from housing to human settlement resulted in strategic reallocations in the budget that affect expenditure patterns. At a 2011 Human Settlement Youth Summit held in Devon, the then Minister of Human Settlement indicated 3 million housing units has been given to mainly poor South Africans since 1994. I hope you are listening, Honorable Groenewald, but that South Africa still has a backlog of plus 2.1 million housing units, which translate into approximately 12.5 million people. The Human Settlement Vision 2030 is aimed at creating integrated community settlement encompassing facilities and amenities like schools and hospitals, as proper human settlements are ones which have places of worship, sporting facilities, and most importantly, commercial and industrial areas within reasonable distances from residential areas. Honorable Chair, looking at the way ahead, two broad themes of performance will be encompassed in the medium-term housing budget, namely streamlining of systems and the strengthening of policy. This is in response to imbalances between departmental targets and policy ambitions, which have negatively affected some aspects of service delivery. In its endeavor to deliver housing policy and human settlement to South Africans, the ANC government has resolved to put measures in place to bolster service delivery. A serious thoughts and action plan have to be done to address the challenge of flooded areas where poor people live and develop communities in higher ground areas, for example, in the Cape Peninsula, to get such flooded spaces, the higher ground above sea level. This have to include basic service needs and transport facilities, transport system. Future special is very crucial, Honorable Minister, Honorable Chairperson. I thank you.
Honorable Mehwe.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, Honorable Minister. It does look like I was the first to meet you before you are met by members of the House, but congratulations once more. Honorable members, as Gauteng, we are known to be an economic hub, which is a reality, a place of opportunities. That's why, as a result, many people come to Gauteng for better economic opportunities, but while they are there, they also demand better houses. The more we build, the more people demand shelter. Therefore, as Gauteng province, we are really hitting a moving target. This has seen an increase in the population to 12 million since they were counted in 2011. Hence, the honorable member spoke about the backlog.
I'll do so, Chair.
Thank you.
Proceed. Hence, the honorable member has indicated that in Gauteng there's a backlog. Yes, we know that in terms of the statistics, our population has since risen to 12 million, but we are also aware that there are many other people who might not have been counted because on the day when the census team came, they were either not in the house or others might not have been comfortable in giving in their information. But whatever the case may be, the demand for better housing still increases. This places a demand for us to build more, but also to build more for people who also have different housing needs. Hence, in Gauteng, we believe that there's not going to be a one-size-fits-all approach. We need to ensure that we give away houses for those that can't afford, but also social housing for those that need it. But we're also involved in rectification of those defect houses. Rental stock also is an option for those that travel in between provinces, but also in between different countries. The rental stock, the bonded housing, but we also consider the issue of actually giving service size to our people so that they can, as and when we have enough resources, we're able to upgrade, but also for those that might change their situation, for them to be able to build their own houses. So also considering the issue of the gap market, but while we also consider the issue of the eradication of the hostels, including upgrading of those hostels, because it will be known that many people came to Gauteng for better opportunities. They might not have had houses during the apartheid era. Hence, they are still housed in those not so good settlements. But also, as we do that, we also need to ensure that we consider mixed housing development so that we don't have a one standalone approach or model in a particular area when we can actually utilize the land for all these type of models. Madam Chair, we're also a home to 3 metros, of which all of them have been granted with the level 1 and 2 accreditation status. We're also considering a request that came to us, one of the districts who want to be accredited as well. But unfortunately, we don't have enough government land for us to be able to build for everyone. But at the same time, as the living, we're also competing with the dead for space that is not available. But also land is expensive for government because as and when we approach the private sector to buy the land that we need to build houses, the cost rises so sharply. But at times you'll find that because of the mining experience or history that we have, the land is not suitable to build houses. We're therefore forced to build high-rise structures, and at times people will argue and say, it is not in line with my culture. But culture maybe can be debated because it is not static. But we also know that some of these mixed housing development will be able to create economic opportunities for our people, but also will ensure that we use the land effectively. But we also need to ensure that we give the land that is service to our people so that as and when the situation changes, people are able to build for themselves. But we're also considering building integrated communities, as is seen recently with the recent handover of housing to our people in the Denville Housing Project, as well as in Mukhali, where the President, as well as our new minister was inducted into her new position. But also those that are there and are demanding houses, some of them don't qualify because they happen not to be South Africans, but others are South Africans, but they might have benefited in other housing projects elsewhere in South Africa. But what is key in everything that we do is effective intergovernmental relations, which will be a cornerstone for better service delivery and better human settlement. But also interdepartmental collaboration is also important, especially in building sustainable human settlements, because all the departments of government must actually put money and not only expected that the human settlement should put money alone. What we also consider doing now as an immediate program is to ensure that we finish all existing projects that we're busy with, but also close those projects, because at times you'll find that on a number of occasions, each and every a project will be mentioned when you know that we are actually moving towards closure of that particular project. But we also want to start now planning for the future, so that you don't have to plan because there's money, but we should actually think ahead as to say, in this particular era, this is what we're going to do. As we do that, proper consultation with our people, communication should also be effected, working with our municipalities. We must also try and identify now and secure land so that we can build in the future, because it will be cheaper, but it will also give confidence to our communities to say this government really is a caring government. We also need to address challenges of long procurement processes that exist within departments, especially in Gauteng, but also stick to the 30-day payment of suppliers to ensure non-disruption of already existing projects. We also want to ensure that we clean our demand database, because there's a notion that there are more and more people that need houses, when you all know that other people that are still that appear on the demand database, their situation have changed. Therefore, as and when we clean the database of those who would be or registered beneficiaries, their status that has changed will reduce the number of those that still expect to be assisted by government. In so doing, I'm sure we'll all be ensuring that our people get back their dignity. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Honorable Mlenzana. Honorable Mlenzana, look for the step. Is the step there?
Honorable Deputy Chairperson, let me start by thanking the NCOP, particularly the Chief Whip, Honorable Ntwanambi, for the support that you as this House gave to me and my family during the time of the passing on of my mother. Thank you very much. Honorable Magala represented this House very well. Perhaps before my time also lapses, let me start with my last paragraph. Honorable Minister, we wish you very well in your new role of leadership. Housing is a key component to human settlements. Human settlement is in a seesaw situation. The percentage of households living in formal dwellings whose dwellings were fully owned increased from 53% in 2002 to 58% in 2007. In 2009, it decreased again to 56%, according to Stats South Africa. Until 1997, housing delivery occurred via the private sector, but dissatisfaction with housing quality and housing location resulted in the Housing Act, that's 107 of 1997, which provides for local authorities to assume responsibility for driving housing delivery. This was followed by the slow pace of housing delivery and subsequently the increase of backlogs countrywide. The lack of capacity at both local and provincial levels have prompted the department to introduce rectification program. Chairperson, 17,425 RDP houses, to be exact, need to be rectified. In other words, correcting the shoddy work done previously by companies who won the tenders. According to Stats SA, 15% of residents are having problems with the quality of RDP houses. The walls are very weak. 16% of the residents regard the roof as very weak. Lack of capacity also leads to relocation of housing projects. Another factor compounding housing delivery is corruption, which has been crippling national home builders' registration. Hence, it is now dysfunctional and it has lost its integrity. This House is too quiet. Let me shake it. The government is not committed in housing delivery. It pays lip service. If this government was serious enough and committed, you needed both local and provincial level. At a local, for instance, level, you need to assist those local authorities with both human and financial resources so that they can be able to increase their capacity and can fulfill their role strategically so that they are able to implement the housing delivery. Pursue outside provincial assistance. Also assist the provinces so that they have got their own capacity so that they are able to adequately assist local authorities. We should, in conclusion, refrain from directing where housing delivery should occur and what type of housing delivery should be carried out by a municipality which is not based on a proper analysis, e.g., provincial survey, areas growth rate, provincial special development framework, IDPs, etc. I thank you, Chairperson. You have been so quiet. You have to be shaken up.
Order. Honorable Figland.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chair. Let me also congratulate the Minister on his new position. Something has to change in how the government provides housing solutions in South Africa. The current approach of providing predominantly free houses is unsustainable and is not working like we hoped. While the housing delivery program started with noble ideas of empowerment, dignity, and land transfers under the Reconstruction and Development Program, the national backlog of 1.5 million houses in 1994. To the mic. Okay, thank you. I'm a little bit feverish, Chair.
Sorry?
I'm a little bit feverish.
Feverish?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry about that.
Million houses in 1994 grew to 2.1 million in 2010 and is still growing. According to the Census 2010 data, of the 14.45 million households in South Africa, 0.7 million are backyarders, 1.25 million are in informal settlements, and 1.14 million live in traditional structures. Besides, not reducing the backlog, the current model of housing delivery has had several negative consequences. The quest for numbers has resulted in many houses of poor quality, and it estimates, according to the NHBRC, that of 3.05 million houses since 1994, 2.64 million are at risk and in need of rectification at an estimation cost of 59 billion, according to the former National Housing Minister, Tokyo Sekwale. The selling and renting of houses has resulted in the formation of an informal secondary market, which deprives new buyers of official ownership rights, reduce market values, and prevent wealth creation. We have created a culture of entitlement, where people expect the state to provide everything, and we have 15.6 million people with welfare grant and around 3.5 million taxpayers. We have created settlements that become poverty traps that drain municipality finances instead of adding through the payment of rates and services. By focusing mainly on the very poor, we have bypassed the gap market, where people earning between 3,500 and 15,000 find it very difficult to afford by buying properties or get bank credit for home loans. This situation cannot continue, and as government, we are faced with the choice of doing the right thing or the popular thing. As politicians, we often do the popular thing for short-term gain, rather than the right thing, which would have long-term positive benefits. So, what would some of the right things be in order to reduce the housing backlog? First, we would need to service the gap market. 41.9% of our taxpayers earn below 10,000 a month. As I mentioned above, find access home loans difficult, either due to their lack of disposable income or poor credit records. As government, we could provide a combination of housing subsidy and interest-free loans to these and unbondable people, relative to their level of income, which they could repay over a period of 10 years. This would enable them to own their own homes, whereas currently anyone earning over 3,500 per month has to finance their home through a bank loan, and depending on their income, subsidy. As people paid back their government home loans, then the money could be used to build other houses, and the financial contribution of government to housing would not be an empty drain as it is now. With beneficiaries contributing and loan schemes, we can build many more homes for the same amount of money as we are currently building. People could contribute a fixed percentage of their income. For example, 5%, that means someone earns 10,000 a month, would pay 500 rand a month for their houses. And someone earning 4,000 will pay 200 a month. If 2,000 households earn 10,000 a month, contribute 500 a month, the 1 million rand coming back into the pool every month, whereas now nothing comes back. Deputy Chair, we could change the criteria as to who benefits. For example, people earning to 10,000 a month could qualify for a government house. Only those above the age of 30 could apply. This would prevent the situation we often have where 20-year-olds get houses while 60-year-olds are waiting. We could say that no more free houses will be built in informal settlements. People can be given land ownership, security of tenure, and access to basic services, yet it will be up to them to develop their sites as their financial situation improves. We could change how we allocate houses to the elderly and the disabled. For example, we could institutionalize how the elderly access houses, and they may be able to have a lifetime use of housing opportunity. Yet when they pass on, the state then allocate the opportunity to another elderly person. Instead of that, housing become an asset in the family of beneficiary. We can focus more on social housing solution. For example, in the 55 million Botase housing project in Millerton, there are 120 opportunities to people earning between 2,200 and 7,500 per month. The beneficiaries pay rental according to their income and due to the funding model that integrates private and government funds, they receive quality homes, much nicer than the standard BNG opportunities. Social housing not only provide opportunities, but also ensure that people contribute towards paying for the rates and services, and are thus not a drain, but an asset to the municipality. If we channel more resources into social houses, we will be creating more sustainable settlement. Deputy Chair, while we recognize that certain groups of special needs beneficiaries, such as the elderly, have a really need for free housing, we have to provide housing solutions that gradually shift the mindset of people from one of dependency and entitlements to one of contribution. We need to have a long-term view of sustainable, which depend on the people's ability to contribute. Yes, we need jobs and economic opportunities. Yet, when a person earning 3,500 per month start paying 100 rand a month for their house, then they are contributing something, and this we need to encourage. For contribution implies empowerment. The solution to the housing backlog is not necessarily to throw more money at the problem, but to do things differently and make homeowners a really possibility for all South Africans, not just those earning below 3,500 a month. This way, we serve the need of all our people and start to create cycle sustainability and wealth creation and not poverty. I thank you.
Honorable Mabita.
Ndolibuwa mudzulatshidulo vahuluhulu vothe va re fhano vo khantsela Moloi from Salga, vo MEC vo Mokgwe vho no bva Gauteng, na muthoniphe mushavise mutatise vo Minister September, membera dza ino nnḓu na vaofisiri vothe nga thunguluya, and the public up the gallery in absentia. Ndi masiari avhuḓi. Honorable Chairperson, Kabantendele Ndiri, thank you for allowing me to participate in this important debate, and I would like to indicate that the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa in chapters 2, section 26 states that everyone has a right to have access to adequate housing. The African National Congress in its 53rd National Conference resolved the following: we must accelerate the implementation of the decision to release state-owned land, including municipal land, to allow for the development of human settlement, which will facilitate the de-racialization and socio-economic integration of communities through the housing agency. These are all decisions that are influenced by the desire to redress the intentional imbalances that were created by the apartheid state. Chairperson, the housing needs in our country differ among the races because of apartheid planning, and the housing need is mostly concentrated within the black majority. One of the major challenges for housing delivery and urban integration in South Africa is access to well-developed land and affordable housing for low-income households. The poor still generally have a lack of access to affordable, well-located land within cities, which hampers the potential for integrated housing and inclusive development. The vast majority of the poor people are located on the urban periphery, distant from city centers, and, in many instances, divorced from economic opportunities and amenities. The main spatial challenges in South Africa center on the continued spatial exclusion of the poor from the main socio-economic fabric of cities and regions. The establishment of Bantustans as a measure to get cheap labor and the establishment of male-only hostels in cities has assisted in the current backlog of housing we are experiencing. The majority of the people that need housing are very poor, and this, coupled with the fact that the rate of natural increase is highest among the poorer communities, means that the poor will constitute an ever-increasing proportion of the total population. The housing problem is mainly concentrated in the metropolitan areas, though it differs in character from city to city, depending on the history of settlement in that area. The other regions have predominantly freestanding informal settlements and better living conditions. Chairperson, the growth of the housing backlog in the cities is also influenced by the migration from rural areas in search of jobs and better living conditions. The rate of national growth of the population also has a big effect on the growth of the housing need in the metropolitan areas. There is no doubt that the housing problem in South Africa is complex in origin and difficult to solve. But I can assure you, together with the activist ANC-led government, we will never take no for an answer to this challenge. And the ANC has observed elements who alleges that ANC-led government is failing the masses of South Africa. But fact of the matter is that the empty vessels makes the most sound. Chairperson, comprehensive plan for sustainable human settlement, otherwise known as the Breaking New Ground, prioritizes the upgrading of informal settlements and integrated planning for sustainable human settlements. BNG collapses the income bands used to identify who should receive state housing support and proposes the increased use of a people's housing process as a mechanism for increased and improved housing delivery. It also provides a policy direction towards a holistic approach to the provision of housing in the context of sustainable human settlements with a strong spatial or locational component. Again, the most significant concept contained herein regarding the establishment of sustainable human settlements are demand-responsive differentiated housing delivery, holistic view of housing market, social and economic infrastructure, and spatial restructuring. This represents a paradigm shift which seeks to define sustainable human settlements as a creation of conditions under which people in both new and established residential communities can enjoy healthy, productive, and well-integrated urban lives. A settlement must be able to ensure that people can live in safe, healthy, and dignified conditions with relatively easy access to urban amenities, the ability to exercise their need for community, and the opportunities to realize their future aspiration. That is the ANC-led government in action. Chairperson, the past decade has seen the good but questionable success of South African financial institutions in the delivery of housing. The Department of Human Settlements was tasked with the responsibility of providing and overseeing the construction of these houses. The Department of Human Settlement brought in 7 strategies to achieve its goal of housing delivery, namely, stabilizing the housing environment, mobilizing credit, providing subsidy assistance, support the people housing process, rationalizing the institutional capacity, facilitating the speedy release and servicing land, and lastly, coordinating state investment in development. The government has made good progress in eradicating backlogs. And this backlog, this term backlog, according to my perception, I don't think it's a bad thing, because the ANC government have targets of building houses. And as we move towards meeting the target, the needs mushrooms due to the natural increase of the population, because our reproductive system is very valid. And God has said, bear children as many as like sand in the sea. Amen. The government has approved more than 3 million housing subsidies, benefiting over 10 million poor people, and have cumulatively spent over 40 billion rands on housing development since the inception of the housing program. This has contributed to the construction of houses and the preparation of sites totaling to 2.4 million. ANC is the one and the only one that advocates for South African masses. Chairperson, since 1994, the ANC-led South African government has formulated a number of housing programs to facilitate the housing supply, some of which are just the Reconstruction and Development Program, the Bulk Connector Infrastructure Grant, the Special Integrated Presidential Projects, the Human Settlement Redevelopment Program, Overseas Private Investment Corporation, and the new comprehensive plan on sustainable human settlement. But there are still, I'm proud to announce that one of the greatest successes of the democratic South Africa is the delivery of housing. But there are still elements that do not want to accept that the ANC-led government is delivering. They are still stuck in the skewed mentality that a black person cannot lead this beautiful and rich country. And that's chagrin, it's a shame. Masha.
Councillor Moloi.
It's very far to reach this point. Honorable Deputy Chairperson, ke rata go dumedisa ke tse tšhono e ke dumedise our newly appointed Minister for Human Settlements, honorable members of the NCOP, ladies and gentlemen. I think I must also get into the queue by firstly, Deputy Chair, congratulating on behalf of the chairperson of Salga and Tate Thabo Manyoni, and on behalf of the local government fraternity, and on my own behalf, congratulate you, Madam Minister, for really being appointed. I think, and it is befitting because this is a Women's Month, and Malibongwe to that. I must say, honorable members, that the task before us to ensure adequate housing for all is clearly a massive one. It is now estimated that the housing backlog sits at 2.1 million houses for 8 to 10 million people across South Africa. Now, but it is also clear to us that a tremendous amount of work has been done already to tackle this backlog. Since 1994, we are told that government has managed, and we know for sure that government has managed to provide plus minus 3 million housing units. And this is an accomplishment unparalleled in the world. And this difficulty, of course, ladies and gentlemen, honorable members, it is that this so-called backlog is a moving target. The Honorable MEC Mekho has also spoken about it. You can't touch it. It moves with the trends. And we are no longer just dealing with the housing needs predating 1994. We must also confront and plan for the local impact of a worldwide trend towards urbanization, which brings poor households into our cities on a daily basis in search of jobs and income. Honorable Deputy Chairperson, in the new data from the 2011 census demonstrates how our cities have undergone rapid urbanization in the last decade, which contributes to increased demand for affordable housing and economic opportunities in urban areas. And when the supply of adequate housing proves insufficient, informal settlements obviously grow in size and the number of backyard dwellings mushrooms. In fact, honorable members, backyards are now absorbing more households than informal settlements themselves. And between 2007 and 2011, 288,000 households were absorbed into backyard dwellings, which is twice as many as the number of households who found shelter in informal settlements during that time. And over the years, honorable members, in the process of chasing numbers to make a dent in the housing backlog, we have inadvertently done damage to the shape and nature of our cities. The old spatial patterns that keep wealthy areas separate from low-income neighborhoods and make it expensive and difficult for poor residents to access the economic opportunities which the city provides have been reinforced in urban areas. We continue to struggle to cap urban sprawl and make significant reversals in this spatial fragmentation. Honorable Deputy Chair, furthermore, cities have been unable to ensure that the capacity and maintenance of the bulk infrastructure network keep pace with this rapid urbanization. And as a result, housing provision is stalled behind bulk infrastructure provision. And thus, it's apparent that in our effort to find ways to address the housing backlog in our country, we must think holistically about the impact that our public investment and government programs have on the shape of our cities, we need to look into holistically about the impact that our public investment and government programs have on the shape which our cities take. I must say, Honorable Deputy Chair, that to address these challenges presented by urbanization, we need to put better urban management plans and systems in place so that there is serviced land to accommodate growing demand. Newcomers must be accommodated in higher density structures if we are going to defeat urban sprawl and create smarter, more compact cities. The impact of our massive public investment by three spheres in urban areas has also been undermined by poor coordination. But with coherent spatial planning and integrated investment planning in housing, infrastructure and public transport, we can make the net impact of our government spending greater than the sum of its parts. Honorable members, all these ideas are captured and emphasized in the National Development Plan. One of the key messages in the NDP is that we must proactively plan and implement programs to counter our negative spatial patterns of inequality. And this will not only ensure economic opportunities are available to more poor households and make our cities more inclusive, but it will also make those cities more economically efficient in terms of promoting growth. Honorable Deputy Chairperson, although the delivery of housing was identified as a concurrent national and provincial competence in our constitution, we know that municipalities play a critical role in the human settlement sector, and both as implementing agents and developers for subsidized housing projects and in the delivery of the bulk infrastructure which underpins those human settlements. In the near future, ladies and gentlemen, honorable members, municipalities are set to play an even larger role in finding ways to crack the housing backlog, with the assignment of the administration of national housing programs to the 6 metros by 2014, and which is a major function related to the built environment, will definitely shift to the local level. Full assignment means that funding for national housing subsidy programs will flow directly to assigned municipalities. And altogether, over 12 billion in USDG and HSDG funds will be transferred to these 6 metros in 2013-2014 and upon assignment. Accreditation and assignment are critical processes for helping us to combat the backlog and achieve integrated human settlements. Municipal functions that are ancillary to housing, such as water, electricity, and sanitation, cannot be planned for in isolation, and therefore intersectoral coordination is particularly important to the performance of the human settlement sector. And for this reason, we as SALGA believes that the devolution of the housing function is not only critical to improving performance in the human settlement sector, it will also contribute to better the overall management by government of urbanization and the built environment. However, the success of assignment depends upon a strong fiscal framework and the targeted provision of support and capacity by provinces and the national department to these municipalities. And according to the principle of funds follow function, better coordination of the conditional grants for public transport, infrastructure, human settlements, and urban development must complement the assignment of built environment functions to local government. Now, to this end, honorable members, SALGA supports the review of infrastructure grant money arrangements in 2014 to make things simpler, more efficient, and more effective. And already the metros have succeeded in improving performance on the urban settlement development grant. Together spent 90% of the allocated amount in 2011-2012, the year the grant was introduced. Buffalo City and Nelson Mandela Bay reported to the Portfolio Committee, honorable members, on human settlement just last week, that their 2012-2013 USDG expenditure is expected to be 70% and 100% respectively. Now, in upcoming years, SALGA supports the extension of the USDG to secondary cities who, in many instances, are well equipped to take up on this responsibility. As assignment and the USDG are rolled out in successive years, more municipalities, we believe, can benefit from the convergence of the control and spending of the USDG and HSDG at local level. Honorable Deputy Chairperson, another area for innovation is interventions to upgrade backyard dwellings, provide adequate services to backyard dwellers, and encourage the development of secondary units in new housing developments. Backyard dwellings are one of the largest housing subsectors in South Africa and make a significant contribution to the provision of the rental housing to households whose needs are not addressed by government subsidy programs, and largely without any government intervention or support. The sector successfully provides accommodation to non-qualifiers, migrants, or temporary workers not seeking home ownership, and any other household wishing to rent, but who cannot afford formal rental accommodation. Honorable members, as I mentioned earlier, backyard dwellings are also one of the fast-growing sectors. Therefore, it is imperative that municipalities address the needs of backyarders as part of their urban management and human settlement strategies. And to this end, SALGA is currently developing a local government position on municipal responses to backyarders. The proposal looks at what municipalities can do in response to backyarders and backyard dwellings, and offers up a menu of programs and policy interventions and tools available to local government. And in conclusion, Honorable Deputy Chairperson, let me reiterate SALGA's support for the movement in this for movement in this sector towards greater responsibility for local government. Not only will these advances strengthen the developmental role of local government, they will strengthen the built environment sector, which in turn will ensure that ultimately we do more than reduce the housing backlog. Instead, we aim to build sustainable human settlements where people have a decent chance to build communities and live safe, productive lives. Thank you very much.
Honorable Sibande.
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson. Honorable Minister, honorable members. Honorable Chairperson, this debate takes place in a month when women are being celebrated and at the time when South African women are being recognized in top leadership position. I'm speaking about the appointment of the former Deputy Minister of South Africa, Phumzile Mlambo Ngcuka, who will lead the women branch at the United Nations. More importantly, here at home, the National Department of Human Settlement is being led by a woman, Minister Connie September. Minister September joined us at the crucial time as we reflect on both the achievement of the African National Congress government and its shortfalls in housing delivery. The housing challenge has its roots in colonial expansion and the dispossession of black people's land, followed by gross political, economic, and social segregation. The centenary of the 1913 Land Act this year serves to remind us that the task of the social economic transformation is the fundamental challenge we all must rise to. Over the years, the ANC government has been at the forefront lines of the providing shelters that fostered social cohesion by giving people a sense of value, of warmth, of worth. In fact, The right to shelter in South Africa is one of the cornerstones of the liberation struggle, the Freedom Charter, which guides our every move as the ANC has been instrumental in centralizing government focus on the extremely poor people who live in the informal settlement. Le nkulumo mpikiswano yanamhla ifike ngesikhathi esifanele lapho singamaqembu akulendlu esishaya umthetho kufanele ukuthi siludingide lolu daba futhi sibuye singakhohla lapho siqhamuka khona ngokuba uma ufuna ukwelapha isilonda kufanele ukuthi wazi umnyombo waso ukuthi sidalwe yini. Ngakho ingcikithi yalolu daba lwezindlu esikhuluma ngalo namuhla yaqala mandulo izifika namthwalo zisadla ngoludala kwaze kwaba inkathi lapho iANC yathi sekwanele manje. Ngqongqoshe kufanele inhlangano kaAfrican National Congress imeqinqo ukulwisana nalempehla yokweseleka kwezindlu emiphakathini yethu kwazise phela ukuthi izinhlangano zawo kugombela kwesabo ziyaqhubeka ngemfundiso yeze futhi nokwethembisa isizwe esimpisho likakhulukazi uTalakhu noma umnyama ongenafu babuye benze ukuthi abantu bakholwe ukuthi lolu daba lokusolakala kwezindlu lubangelwa uhulumeni oholwa yiANC kanti qhabo bo. Ngqongqoshe lolu daba lokwentweluka kwezindlu kufanele silubheke ngemikhakha eyehlukene njengokuthi nanoma singamalunga eSADC ne-AU njalo njalo ukuthutheleka kwabantu abavela kwamanye amazwe angamakhelwane angeze sakugwema kodwa ke kumele sibe nemibandela ezokwenza ukuthi abantu abakulengabadi yaseNingizimu Afrika bahlomule kuqala ekubeni nezindlu. Ohulumende basemakhaya kanye nezinkosi zomthonyama kumele badlale indima kubantu abakha imikhukhu ngokungemthetho. Isibonelo njengazisindaweni eziseduze nasesiciwini sase-Kruger National Park ngokuba sikholelwa ukuthi lokho kungasilekelela ukugwema ukubulawa kobhejane kanye nokushushunjiswa kwezidakamizwa kanye nokungeniswa kwezibhamu ezingekho emthethweni futhi kunezinkolelo zokuthi leyo mikhukhu iphenduka izizinda zokushushunjiswa kwabantu ikakhulukazi abesifazane kanye nezingane. Ngqongqoshe komasipala nakumakhansela kufanele kube nomthetho ozogwema ukwakhiwa kwemikhukhu eduze nezimayini ikakhulukazi ezimayini ezingasasebenzi. Lokhu yikho okuyimbangela yabantu abemba izimbiwa ngaphandle kwemvumo kuphinde kube khona nomthelelo wamaqembu abulalanayo ezimayini ezindala. Okuyinselele ukuthi bonke laba bantu engikhuluma ngabo bagcina sebephonsa inselelo kuhulumende ngokusweleka kwezindlu kanye nezinsiza. Malunga esishaya umthetho kunamahebezi athi amanye wamalunga abaphathi bakamasipala awayilandeli imigudu efanele yokwaba izindlu ngokulandela uhlelo lwabantu ababhalise ngalo kodwa anikezela ngezindlu kuhle kwamakholwa edla umthenduleko enkonzweni. Ku-DA ngithi kuyo mzenzisi khipha ugongolo olusesweni lwakho ngaphambi kokuba ukhiphe olusesweni lomfowini. Lokho ngisho ngani umnumzana ubaba uGrunewald uthi inkinga zezindlu zaqala ngo1994 ukhohlwa into eyodwa nje uconfuse kakhulu. Zolo lo ngeTuesday bebazosibriefa la basifundisa ngako usizo oluvela kwa human settlement futhi uconfuse ngoba izinto eziningi azishoyo zimaqondana zicovered ku public works ku EPWP iyazenza lezo zinto lezo. Enye into umnumzana lo bekakhuluma oyi-chairperson uthe i-current model ine negative ku settlement manje sosuke wasiyabaleka uyaphosisa. I-report esithole ngeTuesday la ku human settlement buyona i-display iyafaila ucomplya ngesikhathi ngosizo oluvela ku government le flip eli financial linked individual subsidy program. Ukhuluma nokusho ukuthi abantu kumele banikezwe izindawo zokwakha izindawo kodwa iyahluleka iDA ukusolve indaba ye district 6. Ubaba uGrunewald uye wakhuluma wathi abantu kumele banikezwe ama-container. Angazi ukuthi baphika bangahlala kuma-container. Ubaba uMlenzana ngakhulu yena ngizathi nje okuncane nje. Baba uMlenzana kahle kancane baba. Ngiyazi ukuthi wena uphumaphi, uyazazi ukuthi uphumaphi, uphuma elokishini, wazi kamhlophe impilo wethu sihlala kuyo. Ungalingiseli abanye abafowethu. Ngoba khona la eWestern Cape, uma ungaya lapha eBlackstop, eDelft area, isimo esenziwa iDA ukuthatha abantu kubafaka kule mikhukhu babatshela ukuthi temporal but manje seems permanent. Wena sibuya nawe esidwadweni, wazi kamhlophe esidwadweni ukuthi kunjani. Bese ngiyabuya ngiyaqhubeka ngithi although housing for poor been top priority for the government, housing delivery has taken place in new ways. Gap market housing, housing for the middle income earners, rental housing, integrated housing development are some of the methods through which the government has been able to accelerate human settlement delivery over the past 19 years. Kodwa umunye ubaba uthe akaboni next. Akaboni next ngoba bahluleka ukucomply, abacomply. Diverse housing delivery has enabled department to deal with the informal settlement, which the era major economic challenge for the government, not least because people are forced to live in human condition, but because these settlements pattern are growing. We currently have more than 2,700 informal settlement with millions of people to which the current housing delivery is projected at a slower rate. Chairperson, this shows you how difficult it is to transform the legacy of apartheid spatial patterns. Abanye bayazazi bekade baseva lawo yibo labenza kwenza kweso. Since 2009, the department has been able to deliver more than 750,000 houses and housing opportunity through the grants to our poorest beneficiaries. Housing need is not limited to extremely poor. Those earning between 3,500 to 15,000 are part of the group of gap market that cannot afford home and need financial assistance. Ila kungena khona iflip. Ila uminister bekachaza khona. Ngiyenza ngamabomi reputation ngoba kunabantu abanamakhanda alikhuni abezwa. Kodwa kuyibo abangacomply. The department has facilitated policies enabling this category of people to obtain loans, bonds, and mortgage facilities and other financial institutions. This is in response to the fact that as people rise out of poverty, their needs and wants change, and thus their capacity to develop themselves as a progressive government. The ANC seeks to create access to resources and enabling society where people are not stuck at one tier of capacity, but that they can go further in society. Rental houses option have given people the
Honourable
option.
Member, can you
without buying this option is for those who are not ready to buy their own houses. Chairperson, ngiyabonga kakhulu. Ngiyabonga kakhulu.
I'll now call on the Minister, Honourable September.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chairperson, and let me thank all the members that participated in the debate. Indeed, very many different responses that have come through, but one that really was the same was that we certainly do have challenges in every province. Honourable Groenewald, with regards to the aspect that you said that the department does not have any or sufficient oversight mechanism, that we need to make sure that in the provinces and the municipalities they spend. Well, we do have, and I have said earlier on in my input earlier on that we do have a mechanism that we oversee all the municipalities and the provinces. In fact, through our mechanism that we have seen that there is underspending on the USDG grant, and it's not 4 billion, it is 500 million underspending. We have been able, through that intervention of ourselves, we've been able to intervene in the Buffalo City. We've been able to intervene in Mangaung. We've been able to intervene in the city of Cape Town, who had an underspending of 67 million rand, and we had to deal with them. We dealt with the eThekwini, who has spent 100% of their grant. So we do have a mechanism to take care of them, and where we see that they require assistance, we do that. But where we see that they are just not going to be able to do that, we think it is best that the money goes to where it can be spent best, so that other people can be helped. I have the honourable member from Cope. I have earlier on said that we've got an extensive rectification program, and we have indeed started in that. We are rectifying houses again in the Western Cape also. The roof is that side and the foundation is on the other side, and we're rectifying all of those things. So indeed, we have a program with regards to that. I think the member has left, but an interesting debate came out here, Deputy Chair, and that is that we ought to move away from giving people free houses because it's not sustainable. And Chairperson, it cannot be right that we adopt that attitude. We are all reminded, all of us as members of Parliament, that we do have a constitutional obligation, and one of those constitutional obligations is the right to the citizens to have shelter, to have access to very many different basic services. We dare shrug our responsibility and say that we cannot intervene where we see that the need of our people, especially those that are very poor, is such that we need to make an intervention, and hence we think that we will just add to the backlog if we would adopt an attitude like that, that we must not take care of the poor and deal with poverty and deal with the economic realities, because they are there. But we can't be prescriptive to our people. I think the idea of saying, look, let some be like this and some like that, what we can do as government is what we have done, and that is we made available very many different, through our grants and very many different programs, so that our people in the different needs can respond to the different services that we do offer. If we're going to try and box our people into containers and things like that, we don't think it would be correct that we add to the ever-ending health problems by going that direction also. And so therefore it is our responsibility to respond to the needs of everyone in this society, and hence our program does reflect that. Where we have dealt with the financial institutions, to those people who are unable to get a Breaking New Ground house, we have done so. Where people do not have money at all, we've done so. Where people have the ability, we now have the Estate Agency Board as part of the department, and they too have the ability to intervene at the level where those that can afford it. And so I think we've really been able to cater for the very many different sectors in our society, and hence we fail the poor people in this country. We cannot fail the poor people in this country by leaving them behind. Ours is a caring government. It's a developmental government. It's not one that chooses the one over the other. But so too, yes, indeed, houses has been rolled out in Bottasig, but we think it will be right that we hand over those houses for the people in Elsies River, Bonteheuwel, those in Belleville, those in Mitchell's Plain, who has paid for their houses over and over. Why are we clinging on to this instead of giving it to the people? And through that, you will make sure that people can take responsibility also. And the state can have a responsibility to move to very many different people to deal with their housing backlogs. But we have dealt with the question of dealing with the spatial challenges and dealing with the apartheid legacy. Our programs and our projects that we have here in the Western Cape, we've dealt with a very great program called the Steenberg program, the one there close to Lakeside. We've also did some programs in Buffalo City. We've done so in Gauteng, in Vleerhof. All of these are projects that we have dealt with that deals with the spatial challenges that we have in our country that changes the face of apartheid. Those areas formerly were only earmarked for certain categories and certain racial groups. We now have been able to change that dispensation. So I really think it's important what Salga is saying, that we should continue to support the provisions that we have set aside as a department and help to bring an end and deal with the backlogs through those different grants that they also have mentioned. Indeed, honourable members, through the Freedom Charter, people do have the right to shelter. It will be interesting, Honourable Sibande, to look at the aspect that you have raised here with regards to the bylaws, and I think it's an area that our department should look into, whether the bylaws does support our development program or not. But Honourable MEC from Gauteng, thank you very much. And I think maybe this afternoon we can take a leaf from what the MEC has said here this afternoon, and that is Gauteng was able to point out to us here the synergies in the province. Here are the challenges that they are having, but these are the progress that they have made. They are acknowledging the different needs in the area. They're acknowledging the tenure that they have. They are supporting mixed developments, and they make sure that there's a need for improvement of systems and policies, and we think all provinces can learn from that. But I was pleasantly surprised, and should maybe thank the DA for now have adopted some of the innovative alternative housing options that the national government has put forward. So we can maybe start talking about all 9 provinces are now adopting the same mechanism. We would continue to urge the honourable member to make sure that they stick to that innovation that we have started and continue to do at the national level. I do notice, however, that there is with regards to the willingness of everyone here asking that what we must do is to make sure that we deal with the housing and the housing backlog in a manner that speaks to giving dignity back to our people. And therefore, I think some of the statistics that I've heard here tonight, Honourable Deputy Chair, I do think it is a problem. And even here tonight, we heard the statistics of 1994. It's not the correct one. It was 1.3, it wasn't 1.4 and 1.6. And so it's important, if we want to create a mechanism to deal with this problem, we all have got to deal with the correct statistics. Again, Deputy Chair, let me thank everyone for participating in this debate, and of course look forward to further engagement with the NCOP. Thank you.
That concludes the debate and the business of the day. Honourable members, you're requested to remain standing until the procession has left the chamber. The House is adjourned.